Okay, I think we're live. I think we are. I very much apologised if things are a bit scuffed this stream. I haven't done this in a while. When was the last time? I think it was with Jean, and we had that two microphone setup, which was very slapdash and all over the place. I can see one person's in the chat, so that's something. I guess it's working then. Hello, welcome to the stream. If you can hear me, say hi. Yeah. So, probably should explain where I've been the last. When was the last time I uploaded? Like a week ago. I've been very unwell. I don't know whether you can hear it in my voice, but it's sort of like nasally, and you might hear me sort of cough or splutter or sneeze at some point in this. So you've got that to look forward to. But I've been recovering from very bad illness. Lots of colds, coughs, all that sort of stuff. So that's why I haven't been keeping you up to date. But what I thought I'd do is I'm slightly better now. So yeah, I thought I'd do this stream to update you all on things because there's been a few things. Obviously, Gallifrey 1 happened. Series 14, there's a couple of bits to do with that. So yeah, the Theories went a week without uploading. WTF? Yeah, I know. Honestly, though, I was so bored. Like, I was ill, right? And you know when you're ill and you're a kid and you think, yay, I'm ill. I don't have to go to school. You know, what do you call it? Like, I could get so much done. And then you get around to it. And, like, I'm almost 20 now. You get around to it and you're like, there's not actually that much to do, is it? Like, it's just sort of sit there. But I have been doing things in the meantime. I've applied for an apprenticeship, so we'll see how that goes. Wish me luck. I'll be honest, as a result of me not streaming and or making videos, you know what I mean, video content, financially, times haven't been as good as they could be. Like, obviously, I haven't made anywhere near as much as I normally would because I've been sick for the majority of the month, so that's fun. And also, incidentally, before I was sick, I took a bit of a break to see a friend for a few days, and he gave me the illness, so if anything, we should be blaming him. But all of this is kind of a lead-in to say that just before we get into all the new stuff, and we will in due course, I have set up a Ko-Fi page, which is basically just a thing where it's like, if you want to leave any tips, just to like help me out, keep me existing, keep me ticking over, it's appreciated. I'll put a link to it in the chat thing. Oh, we got a super chat. Thank you. But yeah, that's about it. Also, oh yeah, there's the notification. Thank you to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS donated $5 through super chat. I hope you feel better soon, Theories. From everyone at the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS podcast. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, so should we get into some filming stuff? I think we should. Or at least Doctor Who stuff, you know what I mean. Okay, so this was the first thing that I spotted. It was a few days ago now, but I thought it was interesting. So Anita Dobson did an interview for who I believe is the Daily Mail on her role in Doctor Who. And she had this to say about her character. So Anita Dobson confirmed she's playing a character called Mrs. Flood. Well, Mrs. Flood is the character I play, and she's Millie, the Ruby Sunday, the Doctor's assistant. She's her neighbour. She lives across the street, so she's always got her eye on what's going on. She's one of those. So basically, from what we can tell, Anita Dobson is playing like a typical kind of elderly, nosy neighbour type figure, which could lead to some great comedic bits, I'm sure, with Russell's writing in particular. But yeah, it was nice to get this little update. Very, just kind of out of the blue. She did an interview for, like, as I said, I think it's the Daily Mail there. I'm not going to read the whole thing out, but you can if you want to. Yeah, I honestly, the reason I wanted to highlight this was less to do with the story itself. Obviously, I mean, it's nice to know a character's name, but it's kind of a case of like, that doesn't mean much to us yet, in terms of what do you call it? Like, we don't know what that means. She could be anyone. But I find it interesting specifically because of the way this contrasts with the previous era. Now, before anyone says anything, I'm not using this as some kind of like, beating a dead horse, bashing Chibnall thing. What do you call it? But what I will say is that just having Anita Dobson just casually go, yeah, I'm this character, this is what she does. It represents such a stark contrast from the outgoing era approach where, John Bishop got told off for like saying he was a plasterer, which never even came up any. It's a different approach, and I do prefer it. And I know you could say, well, we don't know for definite that Anita Dobson didn't get into trouble for that, but I doubt it. And it's just nice to see a bit of what do you call it, kind of openness from the team. It's something I've really admired since they've took over. Now the real question is she a plasterer? Yeah, that's true. It's very true. We can only hope. They've got to do it right someday. I also said that I would link the Ko-fi page, and I don't think I ever did. So I'm just going to drop that in the chat if any of you are curious. Obviously, there's no pressure, but if you feel like helping me out, that is also there. Yeah. But anyway, next thing. So this is something that I saw a few people kind of talking about and discussing and debating and all of this. So I want to put my 2 steps on it. Plus, I'll probably make it into a clip and people will click on it because this topic is inherently interesting. But someone who purports to be, or who I am told is like a famous sort of Disney Marvel type leaker, posted this on Twitter. Very ominous. It's a picture of Stephen Moffat, as you will know, former showrunner of Doctor Who, and Ncuti Gatwa. And then they responded with, written by Stephen Moffat. So, of course, the implication here is this person is saying, episode written by Stephen Moffat for 15. Now, the thing about this, okay, I want to address this. Do I think this is likely? I do. I know that Moffat said, and I know people are going to bring it up, the thing where he was like, I'd have to be mad to come back as showrunner. But the thing is, that seems like such a Moffat thing to say when you're like lying, like, oh, I'm just mad, Obviously, you could take it at face value that he's just not coming back, and that's fine. But honestly, with how close Russell and Stephen are, I don't think Stephen coming back would be the most shocking thing in the world to do a one-off episode. Do I think, however, that this is proof of that? Not really. I mean, the thing is, I don't know, and no disrespect to this person, this guy's track record. I've heard that they have a good track record when it comes to Doctor Who, or not to Doctor Who, sorry, to like Disney stuff. But obviously, just because you're sort of, you've got connections in some places, it doesn't mean that automatically the things that you say on other things are going to be right. And obviously I know that Doctor Who's like technically under Disney now, but personally I would be more than open to see Stephen Moffat come back. I always think that when those two are a duo, it's like fantastic and really, really strong stuff. I just don't know whether this in particular is really evidence of anything. And I think, it's the sort of thing of like, anyone could tweet a picture of Stephen Moffat and a picture of Ncuti Gatwa. You know what I mean? Again, that's not me saying it's not true, and indeed, they might know something, we don't. However, whilst I'm more than open to the idea, and I think it's plausible, I don't see this as evidence. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Clearly RTD2 will end after Series 14, but Moffat 2 for Series 15. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that? Like, honestly, I would be so interested in a second Moffat era. I know that sounds really weird to some people. Although, at the same time, I would kind of dread it in a sense, not because of it itself, but because of the inevitable discussions that would come from it. And yeah, understandably so. And also, I guess, just like, Moffat is just more contentious as a showrunner than Russell was, at least when he took over. Russell has become more contentious since he took over, which was always inevitable because people always take whatever the current showrunner is and they kind of make them out to be some sort of weird guy.
I've got money.
Oh, that's a great super chat. Thank you to Jeremy Duncan for the $5 super chat. Mr. Thary's bum 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 bum. Give me a leak. Make it the juiciest that I've ever seen. Oh man, please turn on your magic beat. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Yeah, So Moffat, I would be open to coming back. Do I think that that's evident? Do I think that's evidence? Not really. I love the way you keep everything logical in the discussion. Thanks, Darius. Loving your channel. Thank you very much. I apologise for not being around too much recently. But yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. There was something else I wanted to talk about, and it's disappeared into the ether now. There's been a couple more, like, sort of just DWSR filming signs and things like that. But honestly, like, it's... I think most of the filming has been in closed-off areas where people haven't really, like, seen. So the only thing I've seen with relation to recent Doctor Who filming is things like sort of the TB lock signs, which are the signs that always crop up when they're about to start filming. However, there was, if I can find it, someone did post that Millie Gibson was celebrating Pancake Day in Cardiff, implying that she's still very much on site, possibly doing, you know, studio-bound stuff, because we haven't seen her out in public. So that makes a lot of sense. Shout outs to this tweeter for pointing that out. Yeah, so there was that. And then we move on to something I was really interested to see. Gallifrey 1. Gallifrey 1, for those of you who might not be in the know, is a convention, a Doctor Who convention held in LA. It's the biggest Doctor Who convention in the world, or at least to my knowledge. I don't think there's a bigger one. And yeah, it's essentially, it attracts huge sort of names from Doctor Who, and one of those names was Chris Chibnall. And this is interesting because this is our first public interview with Chris that we've had, I think, since, I don't even know when the last one was. Comic-Con for Series 11, maybe? If anyone can think of any other recent events. But this is one of the first times Chibnall's actually gone out and spoken to fans in a somewhat direct manner. And by all accounts, regardless of what you think about his era, he seems like the loveliest man on planet Earth. Like, apparently, you know, he was making sure to, like, say hello to everyone and making sure that he shook everyone's hand and talked to everyone and mingled. And it's really nice to see that, you know. But yeah, there was a couple of interesting kind of details divulged with regards to his era, which I won't go over all of them because there's loads. Most of my, luckily I got a buddy called Kevin at ScribbleScript on Twitter who's basically been going to all the panels and transcribing word for word as best he can what they've been saying. So I'm going to see if I can find... There's been a few things that I want to talk about when it came to Chris Chibnall. So I'm going to see if I can find those now. I did have some up, but I think... Because they're all in threads, like, I don't want to read out the whole thread. There's just some specific stuff that I wanted to, like, cover. There was also some, like... with regards to... what do you call it? Gallifrey 1, actually, there was some weird drama about, like, people not recording stuff for, like, other fans to see, even though it was against the rules of the convention. And it's like, at the end of the day, you know, I don't want someone to get kicked out of a convention just so that we can have some audio clips. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, they've paid to be there, probably paid a lot of money to be there. You know, I wouldn't expect people to jeopardize that for like 10 seconds of audio with Jodie playing the master, which he apparently did at her panel, which is cool. I'm just trying to find... There's something I wanted to talk about, and it's gone, and it's annoying me. There was one thing that I want to talk about, which I don't know whether I can find now, but it's...
I've got money.
Oh, I've just got a super chat. Thank you, No Sweat Jonesy, for the $1 super chat. Appreciate you. Appreciate that very much. I'm trying to find what the thing I was going to talk about now. So annoying when you think you know where something is, and then it just sort of leaves. Oh yeah, that was it. So, one thing I want to talk about before we get into Chris Chibnall, I guess, was the fact that it was confirmed via Rob Ritchie from on the podcast Radio Free Scaro that animations are continuing with the same team who worked on Evil. However, Rob is not involved. New funding has been sourced. So yeah, we're getting a continuation of the classic Doctor Who animation range, which is cool to see. Sad Rob won't be involved. I haven't interacted with Rob much. He just said well done on me being on the BBC that one time, which was really cool. Thank you, Rob. But yeah, really nice to see that. What do you call it? Yeah, really nice to see that they're coming back, and obviously Rob has worked on the animations before, I believe. So pretty reliable source, not like the Stephen Moffat thing where it's like, I don't know, could be anything. With this, it's like, yeah, Rob has worked on the animations. I trust Rob and I trust the guys at Radio Free Skaro. So yeah, pretty cool. Animations are back. That's pretty cool. Just trying to see if I can find the other things I want to talk about because it's annoyed me whilst I'm doing that. Let's have a look at chat. Hello to History Talks with Tom. Nice to see you. Oh, I got a bit of a voice crack going on there. Apologies for that. Anyway, if anyone has any questions while I'm just looking for things, feel free. Whilst I'm just perusing the social medias to find the things that I want to talk about. Aha! There we are. Here's the Chris Chibnall interview. Okay. So there was a few things I want to talk about with this. So I'll get it up. So there's a whole ass transcription of Chris Chibnall's main interview at Gallifrey 1. And there's a ton of interesting tidbits. Because I've always said, regardless of what you think about his era, I think knowing the production details behind that era in particular would be fascinating. So, yeah, and this gives us, I guess, as best an insight as we're going to get for the time being. So I wanted to basically go over some of this stuff because I think it's very interesting. Also, I didn't know this. Apparently, Chris Chibnall was in talks to do a Star Wars thing. Did anyone else know that? Like, so for context, the interviewer says, "Let's talk about Star Wars." To which Chris Chibnall responds, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm legally bound." Chris Chibnall on the Lost Star Wars show. I had no idea he was in talks to do a Star Wars show. Man, it's Doctor Who actors are not Doctor Who alumni aren't cut out for Star Wars, are they? Because you've got Chris Chibnall and then Matt Smith, who was going to play, I believe, young Palpatine, right? And in episode 9, and that got canned. So yeah, mad. Do do do. Boodle, boodle. And then there was, I think they did a whole ass sort of watch along of Power of the Doctor. I think. Um, yeah, there's also this. I want to do a female Doctor. Came before Chibnall choosing Jodie. There was a very competitive list of potential options. It's not. It was why not actually. It was not why Chibnall having a woman as a Doctor. Instead to think there can't be a female Doctor is just wrong. I mean, yeah, I think some people are going to get annoyed at that. Personally, it like doesn't bother me if Chibnall envisioned 13 as a woman, then that's totally fine. I think it's the sort of thing that it's been a thing for so long it just doesn't even feel like a big deal to me at least anymore. I understand for some people it is. To me, it doesn't bother me at all. Um, so this is something I wanted to talk about though in a slightly more negative end on Chris's part. So there's talk of the Timeless Child and specifically the Roof Doctor. Um, so it says the Timeless Child, the season arc was always in my head. So Chris, the Fugitive Doctor was added later to set up where they were going. He credits Nida Manzoor, I hope I'm saying that right, who directed Fugitive for the casting. She had worked with Joe Martin before, really easy casting when people come in and are amazing. So, my problem with this, right, is that say what you will about Day of the Doctor and the War Doctor's inclusion and the lack of presence of either 8 or 9, because I know that's a contentious issue in and of itself. But when Moffat conceived of the War Doctor, there was kind of this point to that character. His point was to start out as the Doctor who couldn't Doctor Who, get it, yeah. The Doctor who basically couldn't be referred to as the Doctor, who was so morally reprehensible and did such terrible things that they cast away the name, and they were the warrior one, basically, and the arc is for them to accept themselves again. Only problem with that, of course, is that John Hurt was bloody lovely and didn't really communicate the warrior aspect of it, as well, but I digress. My point is, that character was built with a specific purpose. The Roof Doctor, judging by this, was kind of just thrown in there to be like, oh, that's neat, and that was it. And that's kind of how it reads. And I don't want to sound mean when it comes to this, but I don't think like a new Doctor incarnation is the sort of thing you can just throw in randomly. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there needs to be something. With Tom McRae, writer of Rise of Time and Age of Steel and Guilty Waited, back when it was still under George Lucas, IRC Disney cancelled it when they bought Lucasfilm. Oh, that's really cool. Tom McRae is great. Tom McRae, I might even say, is one of the most underrated New Who writers. Like, the Cyberman two-parter for Series 2 is great, and Guilty Who Waited is like a 10 out of 10. Why don't people talk about Tom McRae more? Like, that's my question. But yeah, that did kind of annoy me. The fact that... And the thing is, it's not just a Doctor casting. It's the first, POC Doctor casting and the first female POC Doctor casting. That, to me, feels like it should be more of a big deal than just, oh yeah, this would be neat to add in. I don't know, that just kind of annoyed me a bit. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting little details in this, and a lot of them are nice. Yeah, they confirm as well that they asked Tom Baker, which we knew from the Doctor Who magazine, I believe, in terms of asking him for Power of the Doctor specifically, but that wasn't to be, which is a shame. There's a couple more things I wanted to go over. The problem is, because obviously there's no recordings of this stuff, I'm kind of having to scour various threads, but it's interesting. It's very interesting. But credit to Kevin for keeping all this documented, and everyone else who's been doing little documentations of Gallifrey 1, because without them... Oh yeah, there was this. So, I believe that this is in reference to Jodie, because she was at the convention, I assume. Because I don't think this was said at the Chibnall one. So it's said to, I believe, Jodie while they're watching Power of the Doctor is that I love you bring up that Yaz is still a PC, as in police officer, or police constable. Yeah, it comes up every so often. So she is still a police officer then. Because I thought she was retired. So that's interesting. I always assumed that, because I swear in Flux, she's like, oh, I'm a former police officer. But no, apparently she's the current police officer, or not the current police officer, she still is a police officer, which is interesting. Not something I knew. There's one thing. If there's one thing I'll say, it's that Chibnall seems like a lovely guy. There's just a lot of his era that just doesn't quite fit together a lot of the time, and it's annoying, oh yeah, Jodie was asked about returning, to which she responded, would Jodie like to return to Doctor Who in the future? If they don't ask me back, I'll be fuming. So yeah, I think she'll be back. Honestly, I think they did announce actually a CD type thing, a 13th Doctor CD that she was going to be in, and she's already done, what was it called? The audio, not Stranded, what's it called, chat? The audio that they released that was like the 6-part one with the new Linda in it. I can't think what it was called now. But that was good, and she's already done that, and that was an audio. So honestly, I think Big Finish is like inevitable. As Thanos would say, inevitable. Again, sorry if my voice sounds a bit screwed due to, of course, colds and things. Okay, so this is interesting. When Jodie found out that Chris was the showrunner for Doctor Who, the new showrunner, redacted. Thank you. Sorry, I had a brain fart moment. Apologies. Jodie said, I was like, can I be a baddie, please? Jodie asked Chris while doing Broadchurch Press after he'd been announced. And then he told her he was going to be doing the first female Doctor. Interesting, because here's the thing. I haven't seen much of Broadchurch or like Black Mirror, which Jodie's also in, but from what I've been told, Jodie prior to 13 was always more of a kind of she was always in more serious kind of somber things. So it's kind of interesting to me for her to be like, oh yeah, can I be a baddie? I almost wonder if her personality would have been the Roof Doctor's type personality, would that have fit her better? Because her automatic reaction when Chibnall took over was, oh, can I play a villain? I just thought that was interesting. Just trying to see if there's anything else. But yeah. Oh yeah, also I think Chris Chibnall invades one of Jodie's panels towards the end. So that's pretty cool. Also, side note, I love that Janet Fielding, at every convention she goes to now, is wearing her costume. That's just a really neat touch. Is anyone else here for Moffat too? Honestly, the thing is, I wouldn't even mind it too much, but I do think it would feel too soon. I feel like we'd need at least one more new person before a Moffat 2 could be considered. Because the thing is, as it is, we've had RTD, Moffat, Chibnall, RTD. You kind of need like one new person at least just to even it out after that, I guess. Not that I'm against RTD coming back, of course I'm not. I'm very happy about it. You all know that. But what would you say his major flaws are? Do you mean Chris or Stephen? Will you talk about Series 14? I did earlier on. There's not too much more to say. I talked about the Mrs. Flood stuff as well as a bit of the filming business and goings on. But obviously, I'll put obviously once this stream is over, you'll be able to go back and see that stuff. Did I miss a super chat or am I just really behind? I don't think I did. Oh, you meant RTD? Yeah, I mean, in terms of RTD major flaws, honestly, when it comes to RTD, I would say finales, wrapping things up, in my opinion, is one of his flaws. Like, there's a lot of, even in his work that isn't Doctor Who related, Years and Years is a great example, the resolution is kind of just everyone point their phones at the bad people. And I like that ending. I don't hate it like some people do. However, I would say yes, yeah, Chris apparently did say somewhere that 13 had autistic traits. There was another thing I wanted to talk about, which was the scene between um, Seven and Ace, where he's like, you have to watch and let the birds fly out the nest kind of thing, was actually based on Chibnall's own son going to university, which I just think was really sweet. It was really nice. But yeah, in terms of RTD, yeah, I would say finales, wrapping things up, is major issue. Yeah, that's probably one. And I think sometimes, if left like on his own, he can sometimes sort of like Chibnall, but not to the same extent, kind of get too wrapped up in like an idea or like have too many good ideas and then just kind of it's just a bit mad. But I really do like RTD and I like Moffat and Chibnall, even though it didn't really click with me, he seems like a nice guy. Which 15 costume do you prefer? The new one, 100%. I like the old one, don't get me wrong. Or I say old, we haven't even seen it, you know what I mean? The one that we've known about for longer. But yeah, the second one, in my opinion, is like much better, in my opinion. Uh, Moffat's character problems for me were that he would essentially find a character type that people would like and milk it. Yeah, honestly, my issue with Moffat is less to do with characters and more to do with kind of in a, it's weird. Like it's if RTD had like a okay no let me when I said RTD had like an ideas thing, I'm also meant in terms of like he constantly had to up the scale each series, right? So series one, you've got the Daleks invading platform one, that's your big finale. Series two, you got Daleks and Cybermen and the Void and Rose is leaving and all that. Series three, Master takes over Earth, entire thing, and it's just it felt like he had to keep adding and adding to the stakes. Moffat's big issue, I would say, is letting the concepts sort of get away from him. He gets so wrapped in them. But I do like both. I think they have different but complementary strengths, and some strengths that do intertwine. However, in the case of in the case of RTD, I'd say my main issues are just sometimes he tries to one up himself too much, and sometimes his resolutions are a bit. What do you think about the TV movie? I like it. It's not great, but I have fun with it. You know, in the same way that someone has fun with something like The Room. Thank you, someone who subscribed. Chris's creative content. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, I forgot that was a feature. If you subscribe, it'll come up on the screen. So yeah, if you want to do that, feel free. The girl who waited, the impossible girl, the loads of druid, the annoyed. I mean, to be honest, I quite like the fairy tale dialogue. Yeah, sometimes the speeches do get away from themselves again and a bit too overindulgent. I think Capaldi's for me is always the example of that. I know some people like it. To me, it just goes on too long, and he doesn't really say that much of substance. And I actually much prefer the way they did 13, in that she's just like, oh, well, this was fun, but I'm off to have a kid. See you in a bit. Like, the 50th should have been 90 minutes. I don't mind the length of Day of the Doctor. However, I would not be opposed to a 90-minute rendition. I love Capaldi rants. Oh, Capaldi rants are great. I just mean in terms of like the Twice Upon a Time speech in particular. I've never been a big fan. They should delay all Series 14 location filming until 8th of March, and then another gap until September, just for my convenience. I'm assuming you're in Cardiff around those times, which is why you want to be around. Um, but yeah, I've only managed to briefly see Shooty as he's leaving in the car, but I'm hoping, maybe get to see a bit more at some point soon. I mean, I live close enough to all of it, so just sort of seems like a matter of time, really. Moffat feels like over time he becomes more and more clever, and it gets too complicated. Sherlock had the same. Yeah, I think it's he kind of not buys into his own hype, but kind of like lets his own kind of intelligence run away with him, and like, oh, I've got this really clever idea. Let's expand and expand and expand. And it's a lot of it sounds great on paper, but you sort of describe it, in writing, and it's like, huh? Sometimes they work though. I think Series 5, one of the reasons I love Series 5 so much, um, uh, is because of the fact that it kind of, to me, it feels like a great balance. Crispy says, "Are you and Shooty now best friends since your brief interaction?" Yes, I can confirm. Shooty Gatwa approves of me a lot. We're best friends. We talk all the time. He often takes me on trips to like Skaro, which now that I think about it, probably isn't a good thing. And I think he wants to get rid of me. But no, yeah. Which 12th Doctor costume did you prefer? I mean, he had a lot of variants, to be fair. I like his World Enough in Time Doctor Falls one. That one's really cool. I also like the Velvet Series 9, the red. That's also nice. Darius is confirmed Shooty's brother. I mean, I don't, you've caught me. What episode best explains the origin story of the Weeping Angels? The thing is, I feel like that's an interesting question because I always feel like the Weeping Angels work better if we don't know their origin story. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of the belief of like the less we know about them, the better. Snowman is the best Christmas special? Ooh, disagree. It's Christmas Carol for me. But yeah, what I was saying about Series 5 is just like, the reason I love that series so much is it feels it balances like the fairy tale Moffatisms with a more sort of grounded RTD framing really well. Like you can kind of see what bits Moffat sort of kept around from like the Russell era in terms of like um sort of tone and well not even tone, just like sort of the structure of things. Series 5 is Moffat's best series. 10 was also good as he wrapped things up with 9 and didn't have time to go over the top. I think Series 5 and 10 are his best too. That's 100% not true because you haven't leaked the entire plot of Series 14. We both know you wouldn't be able to resist. I think that actually I'm a very, very... leaks? What's that? Never done it. Never heard of it. Never done that before. Because, yep, you must be thinking of someone else. You must be thinking of Crispy if he's still in chat. I've never done leaks before. That wasn't me. You're thinking of someone else. You have me mistaken. No. On a serious note, though, when it comes to like the whole leak thing, it's kind of like I was noticing with the Reddit, and I don't know whether you noticed this, Crispy, because I don't know how often you like check in if you are still in chat. I was noticing people just sort of making Reddit leaks with the express intent of getting in the videos about the Reddit leaks. So I was like, all right, this is, I did this as kind of a fun little novelty thing, and now it's kind of become this thing where people just sort of spam subreddits with fake stuff in the hopes of getting into a video, which is like fine. But I've decided to not really cover them as much as a result of that, just because I'll talk about theories and stuff, but like when it comes to leaks, it's like, with leaks it really depends. Darius is the war meddling monk. I can neither confirm nor deny. The Weeping Angels are all just people who need to be transported somewhere and haven't yet got to their final destination and been turned back yet. I like that. I also, to be honest, even though I said I kind of like the Weeping Angels having mystery, I'm also not hugely opposed to the idea of the Time Lords being Weeping Angels. I know that a lot of people are, but I'm not personally. Oh, someone's on the phone. I have no idea what's going on over there. But yeah, the Reddit leaks definitely did become self-aware. Do you know the fan film series Dino is very smiled? Yes, I do. I watch them regularly. But with that, I think I'm going to wrap up just because someone else seems to be using the phone and I don't want to be interrupting their conversation. But it's been a short little stream. But this is just to say, hopefully, you'll be seeing more of me in coming days as I recover. Yeah, thanks all for watching, and I'll see you in a bit. Take care. Bye-bye.